I'm Ross Mayfield, investment strategist at Baird, and we are back for another weekly update with our friends at Strategas. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by Managing Director and Washington Research Analyst Jeannette Lowe. Jeannette, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Ross. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. Good to talk to you. Obviously, a lot going on in the DC and policy world. You know, we've covered the tax bill a lot, the tariffs a lot. We have a lot of resources for our clients and advisors. If you are looking for stuff on those topics, please reach out. But I wanted to cover a few more maybe in the weeds things that you all have noted today, and a few things that are maybe down the road. So things for investors to keep an eye on that aren't necessarily in the news today just because of how much is going on. You all are calling it your September to remember. I want to start with the Fed. We have the potential for a Fed rate cut in September, but we also have the potential for some action around Fed Chair Powell's ultimate replacement. This has been in the news this week. What are you all thinking about that topic right now, and how important is it to you?
Yeah, so this is obviously pretty important because obviously, for one thing, the president has been pushing on the Fed chair to cut rates. This is something he's been pushing for in his first term. He's been pushing again all year in the second term. And one of the reasons is that he believes Powell has been wrong, that tariffs are not inflationary. And then second, he also wants to lower the cost to finance the U.S. debt. So that is another key point of his. So we do think that September is a potential live meeting. That will be important for a couple of reasons. So number one is that we're also going to be having a liquidity drain when we get into September. So for the first half of this year, we've had a liquidity boost, or liquidity bazooka, as we've been calling it. And that's because the debt ceiling was hit in January, and a little complicated, but the Treasury basically has the ability to spend down the Treasury general account when the debt ceiling is hit. And that provides new liquidity into the markets. And it's been a pretty good cushion for stocks throughout the first half trade issues that we've seen. So there's been the ability for the market to absorb some of that news because of the liquidity coming into the system. The debt ceiling was now lifted as part of the tax bill. And when we get into September, we're going to have corporate tax payments, and the Treasury is going to be refilling that Treasury general account, so pulling money out of the system. And so that would have an impact on stocks and on liquidity. And then also, if there is a Fed rate cut, that can help to offset that liquidity issue towards the end of the year. Towards in September. So that's going to be really important. We also think that, Fed Chair Powell has to think about, is he going to cut rates at that point? We do think the president is trying to put pressure on Powell. There's been the new talk where, as while he can't fire Powell for cause, there could be cause because of the extraordinary costs for the renovations for the Fed building in DC. So that is something that they put a little bit more pressure on Powell. And you have seen Powell start to become more in the camp of for rate cuts. So that's going to change. So we think that's going to be important. Ultimately, we do not think that that Trump will fire Powell. We think that what Trump is really trying to do is make sure that Powell steps off the Fed in May. We think that Trump would like to fill the Kugler seat on the Fed board come January and fill that with someone new who will then become a Fed chair. But what he doesn't want is for Jay Powell to stay on the Fed for the final 2 years of his term once his chairmanship ends in May.
So obviously a lot to watch there, and a lot that will come down the pipe in September, both with regards to a rate cut and with who that potential nominee might be. Shifting to something else that might occur this fall, which is a government shutdown. I'd love to know your thoughts on the odds of that happening and what the catalyst might be to either spur it on or to prevent it.
Yeah, so we have, as always, we have to finish a government spending bill by the end of September to keep the government funded. The Congress is currently working on the appropriations bills ahead of that deadline, but there still isn't even an agreement on the top line numbers. So that is a problem. One of the other issues is that the administration has been pushing these rescission bills. So this is pulling back funding that Congress has already appropriated and saying that the administration will not spend it. So the Senate has passed the rescission bill last night. It now goes back to the House, but it's supposed to be finalized by the end of this week. And this is a problem in the sense that it's creating more animosity between the Republicans and the Democrats. Budget bills are bipartisan, appropriations bills are bipartisan, so you need 60 votes in the Senate. And there's Democrats were saying if the Republicans in Congress are allowing these rescission bills to happen, that is poisoning the well with regards to getting a bipartisan agreement in September for a budget bill or even a CR, which is a continuing resolution, keeping funding at current levels. But the other problem is that if you have a government shutdown, if Democrats decide not to work to pass a bill, then you actually have the ability for the administration to really kind of go after federal workers, kind of really going after DOGE cuts that weren't implemented. So that could also be a negative for Democrats as they're looking ahead to this deadline, and maybe one reason why they do not want to shut down. We actually think shutdown odds are, less than 50%. We give that they probably are going to do a CR, maybe punt into December or punt into 2026. But that is something that you're definitely going to hear a lot of headlines about. It is something important to keep on the radar screen.
Yep. So we have a liquidity drain. We have a lot going on with the Fed. We have a shutdown potentially looming, all with the tariffs and the tax bill backdrop and a lot else going on in Washington. Jeannette, thanks as always for your insight. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ross.